about 3 or 4 years ago. And I was up biking in Montecito. There was a fire on the other side of the hill. And I just walked in with my shorts into the command center. And there was a representative from the governor. And Kevin was worried about whether he was going to have to give the order to evacuate the entire town of Montecito. And he turned to me and saw me and said, "You and your big ideas." Another time, I have great respect for Kevin because he was the one who decided that the students at Westmont, instead of being able to evacuate them, they would all go into the concrete gym. And when the tea fire occurred about 2 years ago, they all did go in the gym, and they were all crying and praying during the night. But there were 1,000 of them, and the fire went right by, and they all survived. And Kevin has said that if he makes a mistake and the house burns down, that's not so bad, but if he makes a mistake and somebody dies, that he's just going to head out for a little cabin in Colorado where nobody can find him. And he's going to retire at 55 at 90% of his pay, which is about $150,000 or more, and he's going to walk the Pacific Coast Trail, and that's about 3 years. But I see now, which I didn't really understand before, all the responsibility that's on his shoulders.
Well, getting back to the cabin, we got going with our in August of 1991, and it went along pretty well. Just the framing up. We were getting ready to do the framing of the main floor, and I was over at our red cabin, which we used as kind of our base while we were building the second one, and I saw these guys out in front of the cabin by the road, and they had these little teeny shorts on. Little teeny shorts. I went, "Oh my God, French!" And they were filming the row of mailboxes. There were about 40 mailboxes there, and they were just taken with these mailboxes. So I went out and talked to them, and they said they were making the circuit that a lot of the French do, where they start in Los Angeles and they go up 395, and then they
go to Las Vegas.
They go to Las Vegas,
through
then they
Death
go
Valley.
395, and then they go back to San Francisco.
They go through Yosemite, then over to San Francisco and down Route 1.
So I said to them, "Well, we need a couple more people to help us with a barn raising. Do you want to come and help us raise some walls?" So they said they'd love to, and they got.
You speak in French?
Yeah, okay. They got their wives, and they came over with us because we were raising all 4 walls, one at a time. But it's kind of tricky the moments in there trying to hold all the walls until they're all up. So they helped us raise those 4 walls. Remember that?
Yeah, I remember very well because they didn't speak any English at all. And Kevin was counting, 1, 2, 3, and we'd all lift, and I would going 1, 2, 3, and we'd all lift. Yeah, and there was one time when you build the wall, the frame for the wall on the floor, and you put it all together. At one time we did it completely backwards. We put all the whatever you call them, that go at the top of the doors and the top of the windows, we put them at the bottom.
Headers.
The headers. We had them all in backwards. We put it up, and all the headers were down below instead of on top. We had to put it down and do it all over again. Kevin taught me that in building, the idea was that everybody makes mistakes. The idea was how to fix your mistakes and cover your mistakes. If you could do that, you could be a builder.
So the maxim that we all learned and used almost every day was, "What's the matter? I cut it twice and it's still too short."
But when I'd make real bad mistakes, Kevin would write my name on them, but they all got hidden, luckily. But,
like the one piece of siding that's reversed.
Oh,
that's used on the outside.
No, but it was amazing. Kevin was. He had never had the problem of ordering all the materials 3 days in advance. And he'd always just worked by himself before. He never worked with a whole lot of people. And then
all volunteer.
We put a phone in, and I would call up more people and get more people to come up. And because they'd all stayed in our cabin for free, so it was kind of like, they couldn't say no.
Right.
When I asked them to come up and work.
So we got to the point where we had the first floor all in, basically, and framed, and we had the flooring that would be the roof of the first floor, and we were ready to take the main beam up to the actual tip of the roof of the cabin. And we were over at Tom's place having breakfast, and discussing among ourselves, well, how the heck are we going to cut this beam? Because it's so big, and we just don't have a saw that'll get us through that. When the waitress came up and said, "Here's how you cut your beam," and
You just
she
use
laid
a
it out for us.
You use a regular skill saw and draw a line around, and even though you can make it all the way around. And we used a doctor, a surgeon, to cut the beam. We had
Greg Thomas,
Greg Thomas,
since
yeah.
he was surgeon.
But it was hard because I think 11 feet something other. We had to get it up.
Well, we did that with ropes. We had like 10 people up on what would be
Ladder.
the second floor, and they all each had a rope, and they just pulled
On
all at
ladders.
the same time.
And then they had people underneath
They weren't
it.
on ladders, honey.
Well,
That's to get the beam to the second floor.
No, I'm talking. Oh yeah.
And
But
then from there we had to get it up to the roof, and that's what you're talking
I'm
about.
talking about when we had to hold it up and
Yeah.
build the
So-
support under it.
Don Pettit was trying to figure out how we were going to get it up over our heads for the final heist, and he built this big triangle. Remember the wooden triangle?
Yeah.
And he
With
built a
2x4.
couple of those for people to get underneath the beam with those triangular things where they could actually walk it and move it, and then we had somebody up on a ladder who would actually nail it in and position it, and it was very exciting. Nobody died. Yeah.
So you built this from the ground up?
Yeah, it was three. We ended up being 3 stories.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, it has a basement that's
And Kevin
you can walk
used to,
around in.
when we had the walls up, Kevin used to walk. We did 2x6s instead of 2x4s so we could put more insulation in for the winter. But he used to walk on top, you know, and there was 3 floors down. And he said, well, I'll always fall in because there's only 1 floor. But it always bothered me as walking. We couldn't get insurance for anybody. We didn't put up the roof, the plywood roof. And I called the contractor and he said for $300 he'd put it up. And if he could only have Kevin only and get everybody else out of the way, and Kevin would hand him up the plywood. Because it was just too steep. It was too steep and too difficult to do. And too scary with volunteer, you know. I was really happy when the phone got in because we could call 911 and get an ambulance out there in case somebody really got hurt.
But we did ultimately, we put a metal roof on, which is really good because it just sheds the snow like
Well, we had a roofer
wonderful.
put the metal roof
Yeah,
on.
Yeah.
it's very good.
So
And we-
how long have you owned this property?
Since, well, we bought the
It's
red
still on
cap.
leased land,
Yeah, we pay the federal government, the Forest Service.
okay.
Well, we got the cabin, the red cabin in 1980, and we built the green cabin in 1991.
And
So-
we started on the green cabin in August, and in October we had it all sheeted, closed in windows, the whole thing, just the interior wasn't done. So we did that from August to October.
Kevin
Yes.
took 6 weeks off and worked steady for 6 weeks.
Now let me just backtrack. Kevin is your partner in this?
No, he was originally. Kevin and Maureen were our partners, and we paid him $5,000 for his work, but they didn't have the money to buy in. So Hank Stouts and Betsy and I were partners, and we had a big argument with Hank because he wanted to charge Kevin interest. He was going to pay us month by month to pay us back, but then they bought a house in Santa Barbara and they wanted out, so we paid them their money, and now they're not partners, but they've stayed there every year.
They still come and work
They
and they
come,
stay
you
there.
know.
So you're now the only owners?
No. Hank and his wife are the half owners, and we're half owners.
Okay, and what is Hank's last name?
Hank
Stouts.
Stouts, he was a urologist. He's a
Okay.
retired urologist. Yeah, and we had sort of some conflicts about building the cabin. Yeah. We've had some
How
conflicts.
did you resolve those conflicts?
We didn't. Clever, huh?
Yeah.
They're still simmering.
Really?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. It's okay.
The lesson is never go in on.
No.
I don't know.
I could, as a school teacher, you know, we own our farmhouse in France with another guy. I could have never done it by myself financially, or I didn't know how. I didn't have the skills to know how to rebuild it. It was harder to rebuild that one than it was to build one from a brand new one.
Much
more
harder to
work.
do the
Much more work
farmhouse.
to the farmhouse. But I could have never afforded a cabin up by Mammoth by myself. In fact, one time when we were having a conflict,
Just the upkeep.
when Hank, told Betsy, if he gave us his half, I couldn't afford it, because that cabin right now costs about $5,000 a year if he never set foot in it one day.
6.
Yeah, $6,000 a year. I mean, it's huge. That's $500 a month. You could stay in a lot of hotels for for that money. And we can't rent it all the time like if it were in Mammoth, because you can't get to it in the wintertime because of the snow. It's about half a mile from the road.
You can get to it, but you got to work really hard to get there.
You have to have a snowmobile or a sled, take your stuff, walk through with through the snow to get to it.
Okay.
Has a beautiful view of Mammoth. We absolutely love it. It's in a really beautiful place. I'll show you. Have you seen pictures of it?
Robert
To
loves
show
it.
you. Yeah, we all love it.
That's a great thing to have.
It is a
Yeah.
great thing to have, but
I think it's time to stop now.
About any more, no more stories about the,
No more stories about the cabin except, oh,
Great.
yes, there's one more story, one wonderful story. One time we came home from France, and there was a French girl of about 16 living in our house, and Greg had arranged it while we were gone. She was the younger sister of a girl who was a girlfriend of a guy we both knew, a French guy we both knew. And her parents had sent her over to learn English, and they were having trouble with her. And so she came up to help us the second year when we were doing the inside and to paint. And she had sort of a crush on Kevin, but I'll never forget, Claude, my friend Claude was there.
Claude and Monique were here from France.
And we had rollers. And she came in, the little 16-year-old came in and said, "Can I help you paint?" And Claude and I said, "Yes, sure." And he said, "Well, I don't want to get any paint on my clothes." So we said, "Okay." So we didn't think anything. And about 3 minutes later, she came back stark naked and put her roller in and started rolling the walls. And Claude and I tried to just not pay any attention and keep painting. And that one of those nights, she also walked down to the Red Cabin, or walked up from the Red Cabin and got lost. And of course, it was Kevin who found her. And it was only for Kevin that she would speak English.
She wouldn't speak
She
English
wouldn't
to
speak
anybody
English for
else.
anybody else. And she was taking some classes with Betsy down at summer school at ESL. And her mother called. Her mother was a television anchor woman in Paris or something, and her father.
Well, her grandfather was Giacometti, the sculptor.
you're kidding.
No.
And
Yeah. Kinda interesting.
but
Well, when she got lost, we discovered, oh my gosh, we don't even know her last name. That's luckily Kevin found her. It was so funny.
Was she dressed when Kevin found her?
yes,
That was really funny.
that was a funny story.
Emily, good Lord.
So, did you fish up there? Did you, just
Oh,
talk
yeah.
about Mammoth itself. The beauty of Mammoth.
Oh,
No,
you could
more-
talk about
Maureen would tell the story
Take-
about when she always tells the story about how I tried to kill her kids that day. But I took them up to the top of the Mammoth. I took a picture. It looked like they were standing on the edge of a cliff, but they weren't.
Right.
And she was terrified when she saw the picture. But
Yeah.
Maureen's a character.
Oh, we could tell. Oh, one more. This is a good story. Yeah, this is a story. Are we going?
Yeah.
It's a story from the old red cabin, which was the cabin we had before we moved to the new one, and it didn't have running water, but everybody loved it there. It was very rustic, and it had the creek running behind it. So this one spring, we had gone downhill all day, and we came home, and we had a friend at the cabin, Patricia, who didn't downhill. And we said, well, you've been in the cabin all day, let's go out and do some cross country, because you'll love that. So we got skis for her, and it was the two of us and our friends, Greg and Bonnie. So we headed out to go to the hot creek, one of the hot creeks. Hot tubs. And we got to the edge of the road where you ski into these tubs, and we started off on our skis, and it was springtime, so there were big drifts of snow, but every once in a while you kind of have a little dry patch. You kind of had to go circuitously to get there. And we finally got within about, I don't know, a quarter of a mile of the tubs, and the snow stopped. So we stuck our skis up at this place that looked very distinct, we thought. And we went on in to the tub, and turned out it was too hot. It's getting kind of late in the day by now. So we had to spend another 20 minutes hauling in snow to cool the tub off so we could get in the tub. So we got in, we had a lovely soak, and by this time it was
We all went skinny dipping.
about 9 o'clock at night, and we got out, and we couldn't find our skis.
A storm was coming. A storm came in.
was coming.
And we looked and looked and looked. We couldn't find our skis. We had to walk back through loose snow to the car.
Well,
which
no,
was a
we
long
finally
way.
found the
So we
skis.
finally found our skis. But this is when we first met Patricia, and she thought we were all crazy. That we were all really.
We
out.
got home at 10:30 at night. We never had dinner or anything. We were so tired we all just went to bed.
Another time we were having a party. We used to have annual before Thanksgiving parties with Patricia and Greg and Bonnie
And Frank and Lucy.
and Frank and Lucy and Kevin and Maureen. They were just friends.
We
were just
called it
friends.
early Thanksgiving.
But before the snow.
No, this is here in Ventura.
It's here.
Or
Yeah.
or on Lompoc.
But it relates to that.
And Lompoc.
All right.
But we were having one up at Frank and Lucy's house, and our son Greg was there, and he said, "Everybody who's had a near-death experience with my father, raise their hand."
And all these hands went
And
up.
several people put up 2 hands. That's right. And Patricia.
Oh, many, many.
Yeah. Or one time we took the boat. That was another funny story.
Oh, with Bonnie.
No, it was
That one?
with Lucy.
Oh,
Lucy and
yeah.
all her friends from Boston. And we took the sailboat out in November to Anacapa. And we left from Channel Islands in Oxnard. And it was a beautiful sunny day in November, though. Still a little bit cool. And Lucy said, why is nobody else bringing out their boats? We're the only people. All these big boats and nobody's taking them out.
Beautiful day.
And we got over to Anacapa and we anchored. Jim Smith was with us, and we hiked around. Oh, and we also had the lady from Wales, an older lady from Wales, and plus all these young girls. And when the day was over, we went back to the boat, and there were 2 girls, 2 women, and Jim and I, and we rowed out to the boat, and one of them dropped their oar in, the paddle in, and they said, "Oh, we'll go get the paddle." And they went to get the paddle, but the wind came up, and they were right by Arch Rock. They couldn't row back to the boat. They were getting blown away. So I had to get the anchor up real fast, go back and rescue them, then go back, anchor again, and then we went in, we took the dinghy in to that platform at Anacapa. We got everybody. We had a heck of a time getting them on the boat because the wind had really come up and the waves were going. We all got wet, and we had a heck of a time getting that woman,
Brian's mother,
into the boat, grabbing her, And we finally got everybody, and we were all wet. And it took us 2 hours to get back to Channel Islands, Marina, and Oxnard. And Lucy said, "Now I see why all those boats don't go out." And several years later, we were in Wales visiting Brian's mother, and we went to the Railway Workers Social Club, and she introduced me to all her friends as this is the man who tried to kill me when I was in California. I can't remember. Oh, Greg thinks we had a near-death experience when he was 10 years old, when I took him up the Agui de Midi with skis, and you come out of sort of an ice tunnel, and then you have to walk down an area about this wide with a 2,000-foot drop on the left side and maybe about a 300-foot drop on the right side. And we walked out. I had all the skis. And we walked out, and there was a group of French in front of us, and one guy said, he was just terrified. He said, "Je suis bloqué." And the guide told him to close his eyes and go down. And then you go down to a little spot where we put your skis on. And the other people had all left, and we're up at 12,000 feet under the Mont Blanc. And Greg had forgot his hat, so I had to take my sweater off and wrap it around his head. And we started skiing. We were skiing along, and unbelievable alpine scenery. And Greg started crying. And I stopped and I said, "Why are you crying, Greg?" And he said, "I don't think we're going to make it. I don't think we're going to make it." And but we did fine. We went on down, and it was an intermediate trail.
It's the Mer de Glace.
It's the Mer de Glace de Chamonix. It's about 13 miles down. We skied right back down to the car. It's also 9,500 feet vertical. And Greg's always been mad because he read somewhere you're supposed to hire a guide. But the book also said if it was clear weather, good weather, you didn't have to have a guide. But he thinks he said he would have never done that with his 10-year-old.
We'll see.
That was one of the times he thought
We'll see.
that he had a near-death experience with me.
Any other near-death experiences?
Oh, there are many more, but let's.
I don't know. I don't.
We'll to dig into that.
Well, Greg and Bonnie, there was one time that I was really bad. Greg and Bonnie and Jim Smith and I and Bronwyn, who was an exchange student from South Africa, we sailed out to Santa Cruz. And during the night, the Coast Guard declared that there were
Small craft
craft warnings. And the next day we sailed back, and the troughs between the waves, or whatever you call it, were just huge. And you're not supposed to leave Ventura to go out if you have small craft warnings, but we went back. But I remember Bronwyn ran up to the front of the boat because she wanted to, and if she had fallen in, we would have never been able to rescue her. That was a really, really scary, dangerous time. The swells, the waves were unbelievably high. It was, but we got back fairly quickly because we were coming.
Springtime.
No, it was November. It was in the fall.
Interesting.
Yeah.
'Cause normally it's not that.
And Bronwyn
never
was an AFS student at Buena who was staying with Hank and Sue, and Hank and Sue were gone for the week, and we took her without ever having permission. She was a senior.
Reckless man.
Hank chewed me out for it. But,
I bet.
right.
Just lean in just a
No,
little bit.
can I come in?
No, he's just taking a little break here.
Oh.
Okay, this is a new friend we have here. This is Tiger. Introduce yourself.
I'm with Betsy. We are
What is your name and
Tiger Huang.
Tiger Wong? And how do you know Betsy?
Betsy, we are art friend many years.
Many years.
Yeah, and I called up my manager
I'm his manager.
because I'm from other country. The English is my second language and not really clear. She always help me negotiate with.
I'm his negotiator.
Yeah. We talk about Kent, the story, and that two people so kind for me. Take me first trip in America. Go to the Mammoth.
We went. He hadn't been out of Ventura for like 8 years, and we took him up to Mammoth.
And on the car we heard about there have famous about what kind of fish? Trout.
Trout, yeah.
For my life, I never saw the kind of fish, but I like fishing. But I know Betsy a lot, but I not really know Kent a lot. And I just see the trunk can have special fishing pole, special fishing rig,
Tackle box.
box or equipment box.
Yeah.
So stuff I just focus because I'm curious. I try learning. I like learning something I don't know. Because that fish I don't know how to fish in that fish on the Lolo Creek. And I just so time curious about the box. And then we gather and the second day and busy final. I got a chance go to the fishing. And can walk the younger than I'm. Fast.
Very
I
fast.
cannot follow really.
He moves so quickly. That's true.
My eye always curious about the box.
He took it everywhere with him.
What the question for me about I like learning what kind of hook he used, what kind of bait he put on, how did he find the fish or go fishing very well. That was I like learning. And the whole day fishing, I got several, right?
You got several.
I got several fish. And come home, I just laugh it. You ask, what you laugh it?
What about the recipes with the fish? How would you cook them?
Oh, wait.
We talk this story about the
Yeah.
him, the equipment, fish equipment, the box.
Okay.
That was brand new look. At the final whole day, get home, I carried a long time, even started trip.
Uh-huh.
The whole new box, open, inside, empty.
There's nothing in it.
Nothing in the box.
Not a hook. Not
Not a bait.
Nothing.
Not anything. Brand new, empty box.
He carried it everywhere with us.
That make me laugh it all the time like Chinese earth medicine. The doctor, I have really secret something you don't know, but he don't have anything.
Tell us how you cook the fish.
Oh, the fish is cool. Go to Mammoth, what you guys the house called
The cabin?
cabin,
Uh-huh.
because nobody live there. Anything clean, even no no soy sauce, no,
no
spicy.
spices very much.
Hallelujah, have salt.
Salt. We did have salt.
And the hard cooking the fish, but we get in there. I really know the fish. Even I not eat, I saw the fish. That was a wild and a clean, quick. Finally, we use bacon. After you cooking the bacon, the cream,
Yeah.
the oil on the pan, that fat, use that cooking the 4 or 5,
Didn't you use some wine?
a lot more.
And wine and didn't you use sugar?
Yes, yes,
It was so good.
that was the first time.
Yeah.
But that story about the empty box making me curious of a third day. I follow if walking, I just curious or look in the box. It's brand new, just bought the box, nothing inside. That was the story.
That's the story.
Yeah. I really like that story.
Any other stories about Ken?
Last year, New Year Eve, we have a huge party. It's called
Oh, is that Hiroko?
Long Life Noodle Party.
Yeah.
That was a Japanese style eat the
New Year's.
soba.
Yeah.
And I guess I have 28 people there. And everybody so exciting. I'm the help chef there. And after party, I get home one day. I got a poison in my what they call
Well, right in
No.
between the thumb and the fingers
on
there
the
in
nose,
this area.
everything.
Poison
No,
oak.
Poison oak.
I always afraid that thing.
He's
I'm
very allergic to it.
seven time. And I said, shoot. That probably from I'm working somebody yard. You know, somebody asked me, cut a garden, anything. Later found out I have 5 people, 6 people got poison oak same time.
2 other people that you didn't know too at another party. From Kent.
Kent.